Have you been waiting for some relief from sky-high rent prices? Well, the wait might finally be over. The U.S. rental market is going through a massive shift in 2025, and there's some genuinely good news for renters. For the 25th month in a row, rents have been falling nationwide. But here's the catch. Not every city is feeling the same level of relief. So today, we're going to do a deep dive, a step-by-step breakdown of what's really going on. We'll look at which cities are leading the decline, what's driving these changes, and most importantly, what you can do if your rent hasn't dropped a single dollar. Let's get into this 2025 rental market update. First, let's understand why rent prices are falling in the first place. It's not just one thing. It's a mix of three powerful forces at play. First up is the economy. Think inflation, interest rates, and wage growth. When inflation was soaring, landlords raised rents to cover their own rising costs. But now, as inflation cools down and the job market stabilizes, the tables have turned. Landlords have to compete more aggressively to attract and keep good tenants. The second major factor is classic supply and demand. Since 2023, there's been a massive boom in new apartment construction. All these new buildings mean the supply of available apartments is starting to outpace the number of people looking for them. When vacancies go up, prices naturally come down. And finally, we can't ignore legislation and rent control. Cities like Minneapolis, for example, have implemented measures and zoning reforms like the Minneapolis 2040 plan. These policies are designed to rebalance affordability over the long term. Add in the normal seasonal cycles, where rents are always higher in the summer and lower in the winter, and you've got the perfect recipe for major shifts across the entire market. Now for the part you've been waiting for. Which cities have seen the biggest rent drops? According to data from Redfin and Realtor.com, some major metro areas are becoming much more renter-friendly. Let's start with number 1, Austin, Texas. Including its suburbs like Round Rock and Georgetown, Austin has seen one of the steepest rent drops in the entire country. At its peak in 2022, the median rent was over $1,600. As of May 2025, it's down to just $1,436. That's a year-over-year decline of a staggering 8.8%. So what happened? A massive construction boom flooded the market. Austin saw 64.5 new multifamily units built for every 10,000 residents. During the pandemic, everyone seemed to be moving to Austin, which pushed rents up incredibly fast. Now, with migration slowing and all these new empty apartments, the pendulum has swung back hard in favor of renters. Austin's rents are now at their lowest since 2021, a much-needed correction after 2 years of overheating.
Before we dive into the video, let me introduce you to Northwest Registered Agent. It is a professional formation service that includes LLC filing, registered agent services, and business formation. They offer excellent privacy protection and customer service from agents around the United States at a reasonable cost. Northwest Registered Agent offers a service in which they can file your LLC for you without any hassle. Don't forget to check out the link and full review of Northwest Registered Agent in the description below.
Next up, let's head north to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and its surrounding areas. The median rent here is now $1,551, which is a 6.3% drop from May 2024 to May 2025. This is really interesting because the Minneapolis 2040 plan, which was introduced back in 2019 to increase housing supply, actually caused prices to spike at first. But now that supply and interest rates are rebalancing, rents are finally coming down. Construction permits dropped by over 90% between 2019 and 2024, signaling the end of an overbuilt phase. Combined with cooling demand, the rental market is finding a new, more stable equilibrium. For tenants in Minneapolis, this is fantastic news after years of volatility. Our third top city is Columbus, Ohio. The median rent here in May 2025 is $1,427. That represents a 3.5% year-over-year decline, which is the biggest drop the city has seen since 2019. What makes Columbus even more attractive is that its cost of living is 5.2% lower than the national average, with transportation costs being over 11% lower. This makes it one of the most affordable big cities for renters overall. With steady job growth and increasingly affordable housing, Columbus is striking a great balance that's friendly to tenants. Beyond that top 3, there's a wider trend happening that we can call the Sunbelt correction. Realtor.com identified 3 major metro areas that are seeing historic corrections since their crazy pandemic peaks. First is Las Vegas, Nevada. Median rent there is down to $1,443, a massive 13.6% drop from its 2022 peak of over $1,600. What's wild is that even with this price drop, the city's population continues to boom, with over 50,000 new residents in the last year alone. Then there's Atlanta, Georgia. Its median rent is now $1,572, also down 13.6% from its 2021 peak of over $1,800. Similar to Austin, a combination of overbuilding and slowing migration from other states has pushed prices down. And of course, Austin, Texas, appears on this list again, with a 13.4% correction from its peak. All of these Sunbelt markets got incredibly hot during the pandemic as people flocked to them. Now, with slower migration and a surge of new apartment buildings opening up, they're all undergoing these much-needed price corrections. So, let's zoom out and look at the national rental market snapshot for 2025. Across the 50 largest U.S. metros, the median asking rent in August 2025 was $1,713. That's down 2.2% year over year, and is 2.6% below the all-time peak we saw back in August 2022. The declines are happening across all unit types. Studios are down 1.7%, one-bedrooms are down 2.1%, and two-bedrooms are down 2.2%. The cities with the biggest year-over-year rent drops are Denver, Austin, Phoenix, Raleigh, and Nashville. However, not everywhere is getting cheaper. A few metros are still seeing rent growth, though it's much more modest now. Kansas City is up 2.9%, San Jose is up 1.6%, and Chicago and New York are up by less than 1%. It's important to remember that even with these declines, rents in most cities are still 20 to 30% higher than they were before the pandemic. This brings us to a crucial question. What if your city isn't seeing a rent decline? If you're looking at your renewal notice and the price is going up, don't panic. You still have options and leverage. First, try to negotiate with your landlord. This is the most powerful tool you have. Do your homework. Research similar listings in your neighborhood and find data that supports your case for a lower rent. Go to your landlord with facts. Be realistic. Even getting them to freeze your rent or accept a smaller increase is a win. Next, look for move-in specials. Many property owners are now offering big incentives to attract tenants, like 1 month of free rent, reduced security deposits, or free parking for a year. These perks can save you a lot of money. Also, consider moving in the off-season. Rents are almost always lower between December and February. Landlords are more willing to be flexible on terms when demand is low. And finally, keep an eye out for new construction. New apartment complexes are often desperate to fill their units quickly and will offer significant promotional discounts to the first wave of tenants. So, what are other renters thinking and planning? According to a recent Realtor.com survey, the dream of homeownership is still very much alive. 60% of renters still plan to buy a home someday, with 52% expecting to do so within the next 1 to 2 years. We're also seeing different priorities across age groups. Older renters are more likely to downsize or move to senior-friendly housing. Younger renters are prioritizing affordability above all else. And middle-aged renters are focused on finding larger spaces for their growing families. Let's wrap this all up. What does this mean for you right now? If you live in a city with declining rents like Austin, Minneapolis, or Las Vegas, you are in a great position. This is your chance to lock in a lower lease, negotiate better terms, or maybe even upgrade to a nicer apartment for the same price. If you live in a city where rents are still flat or rising, don't lose hope. The key is to negotiate smartly, stay informed about your local market, and constantly keep an eye on new listings and specials. The trends suggest that rents will continue to soften nationally as we head into 2026, especially as more new supply hits the market. The big takeaway here is that the U.S. rental market is finally correcting itself after the wild highs of the pandemic. Cities like Austin, Minneapolis, and Columbus are leading the way with the sharpest declines, driven by a combination of slower migration, a flood of new supply, and cooling demand. But even if your rent hasn't dropped yet, remember that patience, timing, and a well-researched negotiation can make a huge difference. After years of feeling like they had no power, renters are finally regaining some leverage. Whether you're in a booming city or a cooling one, understanding these trends is the key to making smarter housing decisions this year. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this breakdown helpful. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on the housing market. Let me know in the comments what's happening with rent prices in your city. See you next time.